I've watched people struggle with money their entire lives, and it breaks my heart because the answer has been sitting right in front of them the whole time. They work themselves to exhaustion, they worry, they scrimp, they save, and still prosperity seems to dance just beyond their fingertips. But here's what I've learned, and what I'm about to share with you today. Money doesn't respond to your hard work alone. Money responds to your word. Your spoken word carries a power so tremendous, so absolutely life-changing, that most people never tap into it because they simply don't believe it could be that simple. But I'm here to tell you, it is that simple. Not easy, perhaps, but beautifully, wonderfully simple. Now, before you roll your eyes and think this is just more positive thinking fluff, let me tell you something. I've seen this work in my own life and in the lives of countless others. I've seen people on the brink of financial ruin speak certain words with conviction and watch as opportunities, checks, and abundance literally hunt them down, not because they wished for it, not because they worked harder, but because they aligned their words with the infinite supply of the universe. You see, every word you speak is a seed planted in the invisible realm, and that seed must produce after its kind. It's law. It's not magic. It's not wishful thinking. It's spiritual law as reliable as gravity. Today, I'm going to give you the exact phrases that will open the floodgates of prosperity in your life. But more than that, I'm going to show you why they work, how to speak them so they carry power, and what's been blocking your financial good all this time. Because here's the truth that nobody wants to hear. It's not the economy keeping you broke. It's not your boss, your circumstances, or even your bank account. It's the words that have been coming out of your mouth day after day, year after year. You've been decreeing lack without even knowing it, and the universe, being the faithful servant it is, has been saying yes to every word. Let me start by telling you about a woman I knew who came to me absolutely desperate. She had $30 to her name, rent due in 3 days, and no prospects. She was speaking defeat with every breath. I hear myself saying there's no way out, she told me. I keep affirming poverty every time I open my mouth. And I said to her, then we're going to change what comes out of that mouth starting right now. I gave her a phrase, just one simple phrase, and I told her to say it 50 times a day with feeling, with conviction, as if it were already true. Within 2 days, not 3, not a week, but 2 days, she received an unexpected check from a source she'd completely forgotten about. It covered her rent with plenty left over. Coincidence? I don't believe in coincidences anymore. I believe in spiritual law. The universe was waiting for me to take that first step in faith. It was waiting for me to stop begging and start commanding. Because here's what I didn't understand then. When you're desperate, when you're pleading, when you're wringing your hands and hoping you're actually pushing away the very thing you want. Think about it. When you beg someone for something, what does that communicate? It says you don't believe you deserve it. It says you're coming from lack, from poverty consciousness, from a belief that there isn't enough, and the universe doesn't respond to begging, it responds to declaration. I started to see this everywhere once my eyes were opened. I watched people sabotage their own success with their words. I hope I can pay my bills this month. I'll try to get that job. Maybe things will work out. Hope. Try. Maybe. These are words of doubt, dressed up as optimism, and I realized I had been doing this my entire life. Every time I said, I hope, I was really saying, I doubt. Every time I said, I'll try, I was leaving the back door open for failure. I was hedging my bets against myself. So I began an experiment. I started speaking as if what I wanted was already done. Not someday, not if I was lucky. Now, already accomplished in the spiritual realm, simply waiting to manifest in the physical. Instead of, I hope I get that money, I said, I give thanks that the money that is mine by divine right now comes to me in perfect ways. Instead of, maybe I'll meet the right person, I declared, infinite spirit, open the way for my right work, my right place, my right relationships. It felt ridiculous at first. Who was I to make such bold declarations? Who was I to speak with such certainty when my bank account said otherwise, when my circumstances screamed the opposite? But then I remembered, circumstances are effects, not causes. They're the printout, not the program. And I was learning to change the program. The miracles started small. A check in the mail I wasn't expecting. An opportunity that came out of nowhere. A problem that resolved itself in the most unexpected way. And each time, I practiced seeing it not as luck, but as law. I started to notice patterns. The universe wasn't random, it was rhythmic. When I aligned my thoughts with what I desired, circumstances arranged themselves. When I caught myself in fear or doubt, I would immediately speak a word of truth to redirect the energy. There was one particular situation that showed me just how precise this law could be. I had been holding resentment towards someone who owed me money. Every time I thought of this person, my chest would tighten. I would rehearse conversations in my mind, imagining confrontations, justifying my anger. Then, one day, I caught myself. I saw what I was doing. I was giving this situation my full attention, my emotional energy, my creative power. And what was I creating? More of the same, stuck, frustrating dynamic. So I changed my approach entirely. Instead of demanding, I surrendered. Instead of rehearsing arguments, I affirmed. I give thanks for the immediate, complete, and perfect solution to this situation in divine order. I said it without forcing belief, without straining. I simply planted the seed and let it go. Within 3 days, the money arrived. Not from the person I expected, but through a completely different channel, a refund I'd forgotten about, a payment for work I'd done months prior. The amount was exact to the penny. This is what I mean when I say the universe is literal. It doesn't care about your logic or your plans. It responds to your vibration, your expectation, your word. The how is none of your business. Your business is to know what you want and to assume the feeling of already having it. Now let me be clear, this isn't about manipulating reality or forcing outcomes. It's about cooperation. You are working with invisible forces that are far more intelligent than your conscious mind. Your role is to stay in your own lane. Clarify the desire, elevate the feeling, speak the word, then release it. When you try to force the how, you're like someone who insists on rowing a sailboat while the wind is already blowing in your favor. You're exhausting yourself needlessly. I once knew a woman who wanted to sell her home. She had a clear vision, a buyer who would appreciate what she'd built, a smooth closing, and the exact amount she needed for her next chapter. But then she got in her own way. She started micromanaging every showing, interrogating every potential buyer, rejecting offers that didn't match her mental picture perfectly. She was trying to direct the entire production instead of playing her part. I told her, speak your word, see it done, and let the universe arrange the details. She finally surrendered. Within days, a buyer appeared out of nowhere, someone who wasn't even looking in her neighborhood. The sale happened so quickly and smoothly it felt like magic. But it wasn't magic, it was law. The moment she stopped blocking the flow, with her insistence on controlling the method, the path cleared. Here's what I want you to understand. Your conscious mind can see about 3 feet in front of you. Your superconscious mind, that divine intelligence within you, can see the entire landscape. It knows shortcuts you've never considered. It knows people you haven't met. It knows timing you can't predict. When you demand that things happen your way, you're essentially telling infinite intelligence, I know better than you. And infinite intelligence, being polite, steps back and says, all right, have it your way. And then you struggle, because you're operating with limited vision and limited resources. But when you decree the end result and release the method, you're saying, I trust you to deliver this to me in the perfect way, at the perfect time, through the perfect channels. And infinite intelligence responds, now we're talking, watch this. This is why affirmations must be stated in terms of the completed manifestation, never in terms of process. You don't say, I hope to find a way to get money. You say, Infinite Spirit, open the way for my immediate supply. Let all that is mine by divine right now reach me in great avalanches of abundance. See the difference? One is begging and scheming, the other is commanding and receiving. And this is where most people completely lose the game. They say the words, they speak the affirmation, but inside, they're times watching asterisk. Inside, they're times checking asterisk. Inside, they're times measuring asterisk. Did it work yet? Is it coming? Where is it? I don't see anything. Maybe I did it wrong. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe God forgot about me. And with every single one of those thoughts, they're building a wall between themselves and their good. You see, the invisible world responds to time's assumption asterisk. Not hope, not wishing, not desperate wanting, but time's assumption asterisk. When you truly assume something is yours, You don't keep checking if it's real. You don't question it. You don't wonder if it's coming. When you order something online, do you stand by your front door every 5 minutes asking, "Where is my package? Did they send it? Is it real? Am I worthy of receiving packages?" No. You assume it's on its way. You go about your life. And when it arrives, you're not shocked. You're simply receiving what you knew was already yours. That's the consciousness of the fulfilled wish. That's the vibration that brings times everything, times to you. But here's what we do instead. We speak our word. Then, immediately, we start narrating a different story. I affirmed for money, but my bank account is still empty. I declared love, but I'm still alone. I claimed healing, but I still feel sick. Every time you do that, you're canceling your own order. You're saying to the universe, "Never mind, I don't really believe it." The universe doesn't argue. It simply says, "Your word is law. As you decree, so shall it be." So you must hold to your word like a warrior. Not through force, not through struggle, but through time's quiet, immovable knowing asterisk. This is what I mean when I say, live in the end, don't live in the gap, don't live in the waiting. Don't live in the not yet, live as if it is already done. Because in the realm of spirit, in the realm of truth, times is times already done. That's why Jesus said, when you pray, believe you have received, and you will receive. Not believe that maybe one day you'll receive if you're good enough. Not believe after you see proof. Believe you have times already received it, asterisk. This is the law. This is how the invisible becomes visible. You see, most people are living from their conditions. They look at their bank account and say, "I am poor." They look at their relationship status and say, "I am alone." They look at their health and say, "I am sick." And because they declare it with such conviction, the universe says, "Yes, you are right. Let it be unto you as you have believed." But the one who knows the Bryons the access, law, the one who understands how this works, refuses to bow down to conditions. You look at the empty bank account and say, "I am abundantly supplied. Every need is met before I even ask." You look at the closed doors and say, "My way is made clear. The divine plan of my life now takes shape in definite, concrete experiences leading to my heart's desire." You look at the diagnosis and say, "I am whole, I am radiant health. Every cell in my body is filled with light." This is not denial. This is not pretending something isn't real. This is knowing what is, times more times real. The physical world is the world of effects. It shows you what you've been believing, what you've been speaking, what you've been holding in your consciousness. But you are not a prisoner of effects. You are a creator of causes. And the moment you change the cause, the moment you shift your inner speech, your assumptions, your declarations, the effect times must times change. It has no choice. I've watched this happen over and over again. A woman came to me once, frantic, in tears. Her husband had left her. The divorce papers were drawn up. It was over as far as the world was concerned. But she said to me, "Florence, I know in my heart this marriage is blessed. I know we are meant to be together." And I said, "Then stop talking about the divorce. Stop telling everyone how he left you. Stop rehearsing the story of separation. Instead, morning and night, give thanks that your marriage is restored. See him in your mind's eye, happy, loving, at home with you. Speak to him in your imagination as though everything is healed." She did it, every single day. Even when her friends told her she was delusional. Even when the lawyers called. Even when her bank account showed numbers that made her stomach drop. She held the picture in her mind. Not just the house, but the times of what it represented. Safety. Beauty. A place where her children could grow. A space that reflected the abundance she knew was her divine right. And here's what I want you to understand about that word, delusional. The world will call you delusional when you dare to claim something they cannot see. They'll say you're unrealistic, impractical, living in a fantasy world. But let me ask you something. What's more delusional? Holding a vision of abundance while the universe rearranges itself to match it? Or accepting limitation as permanent when everything around us proves that conditions are temporary? The caterpillar doesn't know it will become a butterfly. If it could think, it would probably call that idea delusional too. 3 months later, her husband came home with news. His company was restructuring. They'd offered him a position in another state, DSB, with a significant raise, enough to qualify for the mortgage they needed. But here's the truly remarkable part. When they arrived in that new city, the first house the realtor showed them, the very first one, was nearly identical to the picture she'd been carrying. Same style, same feeling. Even the light came through the windows the same way. Coincidence, you say? I say, there are no coincidences. There is only divine law operating with mathematical precision. She didn't make that house appear through force of will. She didn't manipulate circumstances. She simply held herself in the consciousness of already having it, and the universe, which must respond to consciousness, brought it to her through what looked like a career change, a relocation, a series of lucky breaks. But none of it was luck, it was law, and that same law is operating in your life right this very moment. Every single thought you think is setting forces into motion. Every word you speak is a decree, whether you realize it or not. You are not waiting for your good to come to you. Your good is waiting for you to become a vibrational match for it. And here is the beautiful paradox that most miss entirely. When you stop chasing, you start attracting. When you release the desperate grip of need, you open your hands to receive. I've watched it happen 1,000 times. A woman spends months hunting for love, analyzing every text message, strategizing every encounter. Nothing comes. Then one day, she surrenders. She decides she's complete as she is. Within weeks, love appears not because she stopped wanting it, but because she stopped vibrating lack. A man chases a business deal with anxious phone calls and sleepless nights. The deal falls through. Later, he casually mentions his idea at a dinner party, relaxed and unconcerned. Someone at the table becomes his biggest investor. Same man, same idea, different vibration. This is not coincidence. This is law. The universe reads your energetic signature, not your words. You can affirm abundance all day long, but if you're checking your bank account with fear, if you're calculating how to pay next month's rent while you speak your affirmations, you're sending a split signal. And a split signal creates a split result or no result at all. I knew a woman who affirmed daily, I am wealthy, I am prosperous. Yet she would panic every time an unexpected bill arrived. She would hoard small amounts, afraid to spend even on necessities. Her words said abundance, but her actions screamed poverty, and poverty is what remained. The shift happened when she began to act from the end. She treated herself to one small luxury she'd been denying herself, a bouquet of fresh flowers. Not a practical purchase, but a prosperous one. She felt wealthy buying those flowers. That feeling was the bridge. Within a month, an old debt she'd written off was unexpectedly repaid. Within 3 months, her income had doubled. She had shifted from resistance to reception, from struggle to flow, and that changes everything. Now, I want to share something that might challenge you, but it's something you must understand. Your demonstrations often arrive disguised. We have such rigid pictures of how our good must appear. We pray for prosperity, and we expect a specific check from a specific source. We affirm perfect health, and we insist it arrive through a particular treatment. We call in our soulmate, and we've already decided exactly what they'll look like, what they'll do for a living, where they'll take us to dinner. But infinite intelligence is far more creative than your limited human reasoning. Your good may come through channels you never anticipated, wearing clothes you didn't recognize, speaking a language you hadn't prepared for. I knew a woman who affirmed for the perfect home. She had the most specific vision, a brownstone in a particular neighborhood, with bay windows and a garden. She looked and looked, became increasingly frustrated. Nothing matched her exact picture. Then, a friend mentioned a completely different area she'd never considered. She almost didn't go to look. That's not where my home is, she thought. But something nudged her, that still, small voice. She went. And there it was, not a brownstone, but a Victorian cottage with the most glorious light and a garden that took her breath away. It was more perfect than anything she'd imagined, but she would have missed it entirely if she'd stayed locked in her limited vision. Your word goes forth and cannot return void. But you must not outline the channels. You must keep your mind open, your vision flexible, your heart receptive. When you're too busy looking for the battleship, you miss the sailboat that's been sent to rescue you. This is why I always say, do not limit the Almighty. Your job is to hold the vision of the thing itself, prosperity, health, love, freedom, not the exact form it must take. Spirit knows infinite paths. Your reasoning mind knows only the few paths you've traveled before. Someone came to me once and said, I need exactly $3,000 by next Tuesday for a particular investment. I've spoken the word. I've claimed it. Why hasn't it come? And I said, you've tied Spirit's hands. You've told the universe not only what you want, but when you want it, how you want it, and what you'll do with it. You've left no room for anything better. She was indignant at first, but I asked her, what if Spirit wanted to give you $5,000 by Thursday instead? What if there's an opportunity twice as good as the one you're fixated on? Will you miss it because you're staring at Tuesday and 3,000? This is not to say we shouldn't be specific in our vision. Oh no, vagueness is faith's enemy too. But there's a difference between a clear vision and a strangled vision. A clear vision says, I see myself living in abundant prosperity, all my needs met, giving and receiving freely. A strangled vision says, I must have this particular job, at this particular salary, starting on this particular date, or nothing. You see the difference? One opens doors. The other closes them. The universe is lavish, beyond measure. It has resources you've never imagined. It has solutions you've never considered. But you must give it room to work. You must hold your vision steadily, yes, but hold it loosely enough that Spirit can improve upon it. I've watched people hold so tightly to their pictures of how things should unfold that they walked right past the very thing they were praying for, simply because it arrived in different wrapping paper than they expected. The divine design for your life is always bigger and better than what you've imagined. Always. Your dreams are too small. Your hopes are too cautious. What you're asking for is a thimbleful, when Spirit wants to give you the ocean. So hold your vision, speak your word, claim your good. But then, and this is essential, release the details to infinite intelligence. Say, this or something better, God. That phrase, this or something better, is your safety net and your springboard. It means you're not limiting the universe to your small idea of what's possible. You're allowing for miracles beyond your imagination. I've seen the most remarkable demonstrations of this principle. A woman came to me desperate for a specific apartment. We worked together on her spiritual mind treatment. Within a week, that apartment was rented to someone else. She was devastated. But I told her, the universe has something better. 2 days later, she was offered a house, a whole house for less rent than the apartment, in a better neighborhood, with a garden she'd always dreamed of. Her disappointment had been premature. Life was simply clearing the way for her greater good. This is why we must never mourn a closed door. Every closed door is protection or redirection. The universe is infinitely more creative than we are. When you say, this or something better, you're giving infinite intelligence permission to surprise and delight you beyond your limited human vision. Now, here's where people get tripped up. They make their claim, they release it to God, and then they panic. They start checking and rechecking, like someone who plants a seed and digs it up every day to see if it's growing. This is spiritual anxiety, and it kills your demonstration faster than anything. Once you've spoken your word, let it work. Faith means resting in the assurance that it is done, not it will be done. It is done, in the invisible realm, waiting to manifest in form. Jesus said, therefore, I tell you, whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours. Received, past tense, not future. The spiritual reality precedes the physical manifestation. When you truly know this, you stop straining and struggling. You stop obsessively checking your bank account or your phone. You simply go about your business with a quiet knowing, a peaceful expectancy. This is the Sabbath rest. Not a day of the week, but a state of consciousness. You've done your spiritual work. Now you rest in faith while the universe does its work. I love to tell people, while you're waiting for your demonstration, live as though it's already settled. Because in the invisible realm, it is settled. You don't act desperate, you don't act anxious. You act successful, joyful, abundant, because those qualities are already yours in spirit. This is what I mean when I say act the part. Not pretense, not make-believe, but alignment. When you know your good is on its way, you naturally walk differently. You speak differently. You make decisions differently. I once worked with a man who was waiting for a large sum of money. He'd done his spiritual work, spoken his word, released it, rested in the Sabbath. But then he said to me, "Florence, I've been turning down social invitations because I can't afford to go out." I said, "That's your mistake right there. You're acting poor while declaring abundance." He looked confused. I explained, "You don't have to spend money you don't have, but you do have to. Stop acting like a beggar when you're a child of the King." So he shifted. He accepted invitations. He dressed well. He carried himself with quiet confidence. He stopped apologizing for his financial situation and instead spoke with calm assurance about his prosperity. And within 2 weeks, the money came not from where he expected, but from a completely surprising source. You see, when you act faith-filled, you become a magnet for your good. The universe doesn't respond to your words alone. It responds to your entire vibration, your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, your energy. When every part of you says, "I am provided for, I am abundant, I am cared for by infinite intelligence," then the universe says, "Yes, you are," and delivers the proof. But if your words say one thing and your actions say another, you're sending a mixed signal, and mixed signals create mixed results or delays. So, while you're in that sacred waiting period, ask yourself, am I living like someone who trusts God? Or am I living like someone who's terrified? Am I making decisions from faith or from fear? Am I generous, joyful, expectant? Or am I hoarding, worried, contracted? Your demonstration is watching you. It's waiting for you to become the person who's ready to receive it. Now, here's something that catches people off guard. When you ask for something specific, the universe might deliver it in the most unexpected package. You say, "I want financial abundance," and suddenly you lose your job. Your mind screams, "This is the opposite of what I asked for." But 6 months later, you're in a position that pays 3 times more, doing work you actually love. The demonstration wasn't wrong. The path was different than you expected. This is where spiritual students get tested, because the universe doesn't always wrap your good in the packaging you designed. Sometimes it comes through what looks like disaster. Sometimes it comes through an ending, a loss, a complete dismantling of what you thought you needed. I've seen this pattern hundreds of times. A woman affirms for her perfect home. 2 weeks later, her landlord sells the building and she's forced to move. She's devastated. But the forced move puts her in a neighborhood where she meets her future business partner, and within a year she's bought her own home, something she never thought possible. The demonstration was bigger times than her original request, but it required her to trust the process when it looked like everything was falling apart. This is advanced spiritual work, my dear. This is where you prove whether you really believe this law or whether you're just playing with pretty words. You've got to trust the intelligence that's orchestrating your demonstration. It knows routes you've never considered. It has connections you can't see. It's working in dimensions beyond your current perception. Your job isn't to micromanage how it comes. Your job is to hold the vision, maintain the feeling, stay in alignment, and then here's the crucial part, times follow the guidance when it comes. Asterisk, because guidance will come. An impulse to call someone, a sudden idea, an invitation that seems unrelated, a door closing that forces you toward another door. The universe speaks through intuition, through coincidence, through what you call random events. Nothing is random when you're consciously creating your life. You want the demonstration? Then you've got to be willing to be led. You've got to be willing to take the action steps that don't make logical sense, but feel right in your spirit. You see, the universe doesn't operate like a filing clerk. It doesn't say, "Oh, you filled out the request form properly. Here's your blessing in 5 to 7 business days." No. It operates through intuition, through guidance, through those sudden urges that make you uncomfortable because they require trust. A woman once came to me in absolute panic. She needed her rent money, desperately needed it, and she had just enough set aside, barely enough to cover it. Then she got this strong urge, this quiet knowing, to give half of that money to a friend who was struggling. Now, logic said, "Are you insane? You need this money yourself." But her spirit said something different. She gave it. Against all common sense, she gave it. The rent was due in 3 days. She had no idea where the money would come from. But the very next morning, she got a call about a job opportunity she'd completely forgotten she'd applied for weeks ago. They needed someone immediately. Could she start that day? The payment? Double what she needed for rent. You think that's coincidence? I've seen this pattern repeat too many times to call it luck. The universe rewards movement. It rewards action taken in faith. But here's what most people miss. It's not just any action. It's not frantic, desperate scrambling. It's obedient action. It's following that inner directive, even when it makes zero sense to your rational mind. And let me be clear, this isn't about being foolish. When you're truly connected to divine guidance, there's a peace underneath the fear. You might be terrified of the action, but there's a rightness to it. There's a knowing. That's how you tell the difference between ego and spirit. Your ego will push you from a place of panic. Spirit will pull you from a place of peace, even if what it's asking you to do is radically uncomfortable. So yes, you speak the word, you make the declaration, you stand on the promise, but then you watch for the guidance, you watch for the doors, you watch for the nudges. And when they come, and they will come, you move. Even if it looks ridiculous, even if your friends think you've lost your mind, because faith without works is dead, and works without faith, that's just exhausting hustle that leads nowhere.